Welcome to the Voicehacks Podcast. I'm your host, Mary Z. On the Voicehacks Podcast, I'll be talking to some of rock and metal's best singers, coaches, and experts about what goes into the mysterious and amazing sounds we make with our voices. If you like this podcast, please help spread the word by sharing it with your friends. Post our episodes on your Facebook and Instagram, and tag me and my guests. I'm at Metal Mary Z on Instagram. Don't forget to leave the show a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and of course, follow me on YouTube at Voicehacks by Mary Z. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Voicehacks Podcast. Today it's my absolute pleasure to have on legendary vocalist Robin McAuley. You've heard his voice with the McAuley Schenker group. We've heard his voice with Survivor, Black Swan, and now we've got a solo album coming out. Welcome, Robin. It's so lovely to have you.
Good morning, Mary. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'm just absolutely stoked. You're a fantastic vocalist. So is this your first solo album that just came out on the 17th?
There are those who will tell me it's my third. For me, it's officially my second.
Okay.
Back in, 99, pre-Survivor. Well, actually, 94, dear God. I co-wrote and worked on a bunch of songs with Frankie Sullivan, Survivor, and another writer called Kurt Como. The whole idea was, shop it, sell it, see who's interested. It was right at the end of the sort of the classic rock period when all the 80s bands were going, okay, you're done, cut your hair and go home and go out into the past.
Yeah.
And all that time, right? Anyway, alternative, all of that sort of stuff, grunge. And we couldn't give it away. And in 99, a Japanese label decided that they would like to take it on. And then Frankie said, forget us shopping a deal, just release it as a solo record. So it came out as Business as Usual, which people goes, oh my God, you released Business as Usual in 99, and in 2021, you released your second one. What took you so long? And well, here we are in 2023, and the official second one will drop on February 17th.
Wow.
I don't know if that explains everything, but there you have it.
No, that's cool. So what sort of prompted you to do that? You've done a lot of vocal work with some legendary musicians. Did you just decide it was time for you to put out another one, or a time for you, or that you were ready to do it? Was there any particular impetus?
None of the above, actually. I had a call from Serafino Perugino over at Frontiers, and he goes, oh my God, I've been a big fan of yours for so many years. I'd love you to do record a solo record for the label. And I said, you don't want to hear a solo record from me. I wouldn't know what to do. I really have no interest in doing it. He goes, oh, come on, it would be great. And I said, what would I do? And he goes, give me you. And I'm going, well, that's kind of boring, so I don't really like going solo and working alone, and I like the security of a band around me. And so we kind of shelved it because I wasn't exactly chomping at the bit to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And very soon afterwards, well, maybe 6 months or a year afterwards, I get a call from Jeff Pilson, and Jeff said, hey, so I know Perugino was talking to you about doing a solo record. So now I have this challenge to put together a supergroup for him, and you're my first choice of singer. And he said, we've known each other for 100 years. He said, so please don't say no, because I really want you to do this. And I already spoke to Red Beach, and Red Beach is totally down to do it and is dying to get together and work together and yada yada. And I said, so are you playing bass? And he goes, oh no, I'm not playing bass. I'll be more on the production level, co-writing, that sort of stuff. And I went, well, no, I don't want to do it. If you play bass, I'll do it. And
that was like the
development that's
Black
for
Swan.
what would become Black Swan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Black
right?
Swan has an incredible lineup, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Reb Beach and what
Jim
a legend.
and Matt Starr. Yeah.
And Matt Starr, what a great group of performers. How is the Black Swan material a little bit different than the Robin McAuley solo material?
Because there's no Red Beach, no Jeff Pilson, and no Matt Starr.
Just different people.
It's a completely different. It's a different animal. I love Black Swan. You know, we did the Shake the World, the first one. We did Generation Mind. Absolutely floored with the great response that we've had. Once Shake the World had come out, Frontiers came back knocking on my door, and they said, well, you know, it would be a really good idea to keep the momentum going now, and you to record that solo album that you've been refusing to do. So my only way to approach it really was to sort of delve back into what I had done and who I had worked with. And that's kind of how I set it up. I went back into some of the Survivor co-writers, some of my old Grand Prix guys from the UK back when, and that sort of stuff. And I put together an album, and everybody just seemed to love it. And they went, what took you so long? And I thought, this is just going to get floored. Nobody will listen to this. But people were surprisingly taken by it and liked it. And second Black Swan record came out, and then I went straight back into doing this solo record and talked to Alessandro Del Vecchio, who produces and engineers this one as well.
Yeah.
And I said, we need a little more edgy on this one. And now that we put the first one to rest, we can go forward and start,
pushing the envelope.
Just getting this one going with a little more edge. A bunch of different new songwriters connected with Alessandro, and a couple of the guys I worked with on the first one out of Sweden. And I love the results. I think it's great.
The first video, Feel Like Hell, where did you film that at?
Yeah, actually, the first video was actually the title track, Alive.
Oh, sorry. I thought I made the mistake of thinking Feel Like Hell was the first video.
Yeah, Alive was the first one we shot in this great warehouse, sort of on the eastern side of downtown LA.
Yeah.
And then Feel Like Hell was the second one, came out just last week, I think. And we shot that very late at night on the streets of Hollywood in a cold and sort of kind of dodgy area. But
that's the areas that look good in music videos.
the lighting was awesome. You just couldn't build such a set because we had all of the fire trucks, we had all the paramedics up and down the street, we had the right kind of dog just walk into the set, and we had these alleys that have all this great graffiti on it and that sort of dodgy lighting, and we went, this is just perfect. And
it is perfect. It looks great.
We froze our asses off. We were up there from I think 7:30 till just after midnight or something. The funny thing is, right at the very, very last shot, it was just myself, the cameraman, a makeup artist, and photographer. And the photographer, Enzo Mazzio, works with Frontiers a lot, and he's amazing because we just conjured up all of this stuff together. And the lighting it was the perfect time. Everybody was going, oh, this will be the Christmas video I'll never forget, because it was like, I think 1 week before Christmas, right? And just as we were about to, actually we were shooting the very last sequence, and the cameraman, Eric Bordella, was right behind me, and he goes, oh, so I need you to very sharply turn around, take a look at me, and just move at a fast pace. So I'm belting up the street at midnight, right? And I'm wearing these particular type of shoes. So I did this little pirouette thing so I could swing around and look at him, except there was no give on my shoes on the concrete. My shoes would not move. And what did I hear? I heard, he goes, shit. Are you okay? As I'm about to take a face plant on Hollywood Boulevard, and he goes, what just happened? And I said, I think I just busted my knee.
Oh my God.
I swear. Because I'm like this, and I'm going, and if my shoes moved, I could. So the shoes, my feet didn't move, but my knee decided to go, I gotcha. And I swear to God, I all the way through Christmas, up until maybe a week ago, I was just limping around the place going, are you kidding me?
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
The things
And I
we
went,
do for
but
art.
we never got it in the video. We did not get that in the
No, I didn't see. You didn't look like you were like limping or anything in the video.
No, it was right at the end. There was
Yeah.
one
Thank
scene
God. Yeah.
right at the end, and I'm going, oh boy. And he goes, shit, I missed it.
Oh my God. And you're like,
I
good.
know, right?
I don't want
I
that
know.
on the video.
Anyway, it was a blast. It was really a
That
lot.
sounds so
You
much
know,
fun.
it suited the video, and we got all of the extras in there that we normally wouldn't be able to get, and it just was perfect. We had a blast. Yeah.
I think it's a great looking video.
Thank you.
Mostly,
You know, they call it a mini movie. You know, it's like this
Mhm.
little fight with my alter ego.
Yes, I like
chasing myself up and down Hollywood Boulevard.
it was very clever though. It's clever.
I think it is great, isn't it? It's
Hmm.
great. The colors are awesome, and it's like, yeah, we're. Enzo called me and he goes, I do a lot of work for Frontiers. I think this is my favorite of all the favorites. He goes, this one is really good.
It's
And
really nice.
I come to him and I have the most ridiculous, wacky ideas, and I'm going, dude, do you think we could do something like this? And he goes, if it's different and because it's you, I know it's going to be different. Let's do it.
That's so cool.
Right? And I love that. I love it. It's just fun. It's
That's
fun.
what you need as an artist, though. I mean, you have to have other people on your team, on your creative team, that can help you achieve the vision, right?
Yeah, I've been really lucky because on the Black Swan stuff, Jeff and Reb have a tendency to say, dude, deal with the artist. You deal with it, you come up with the ideas, and just run it by us on occasion, and we'll tell you if we like it or not.
Right.
And then we have this wonderful graphic artist, Stan Decker, that works on the Black Swan stuff. And then for my stuff, they introduced me to this guy called Nello Del Olmo, who did Standing on the Edge, and now he just did Alive. And I throw all of this stuff at him, and he goes, oh my God, I love this. and I give him my ideas, we work through it, and he does a great job. I love vampires and Frankensteins and all of that sort of stuff. So how could you go wrong?
You can't go wrong. I mean, that's metal. That's rock.
And that's just like, yes.
Yeah. Your vocals sound incredible. And
Thank you.
This is a podcast all about vocalists.
Thank you.
They sound fantastic. I was just wondering, is there something that you've done over the years? Is there a method to your madness? Do you have any lifestyle restrictions? I mean, I get really surprising answers to this from vocalists, from the extreme of doing nothing to maintain their voice to a very extreme routine to maintain their voice. Do you have anything that you do?
I suppose if I said no, I'd be telling a lie, but I've been doing the same thing for so long that it just comes natural to me.
Yeah.
So I don't really have to think about it too much. There was a time I would honestly used to think that before going on stage, if I took a shot of whiskey or something, that this was going to be really good for my voice. It was not really good for my voice. It was not. Because alcohol is very constricting to the vocal cords, blah, blah, blah. I try to stay off coffee because it dries you up. I fail miserably because I usually have a cup of coffee somewhere before I go on stage.
Oh, ditto.
But I make it last, so it's not, I don't chug it or anything like that. Alcohol is strictly out. If I tour for a day or I tour for 6 months, alcohol is out. That's just the way it is. I've never smoked in my life, so that's not a factor. But that said, I cannot stand being around a smoky atmosphere. It's public enemy number one for me. So that freaks me out beyond words. I'm it's just so bad. I'm really extreme when it comes to smoke. I mean, really extreme. So if I see somebody smoking,
is fog machines also included in that? Are you
okay? So that's an excellent point. If I see fog, I'm straight to the tour manager or whoever is the production manager at the time, and I will take it to, again, extremes to find out and make sure it's water-based. Has to be. If it's illegal to use oil like they used to do, because I had the experience of walking on stage in front of the record company at the time in the McAuley Schenker days. And I think I got to about 3 songs and I started to sing the next one and there was nothing. Everything just disappeared. And I'm going, the hell just happened? I couldn't even speak. I mean, there was nothing.
Oh my
I mean, there
God.
was nothing. And I battled through the rest of the show and I have no idea. I think it was Philadelphia. I think it was a Prince's Club actually in
Oh, in
yeah, in Prince,
Minneapolis,
and
that
yeah, Minneapolis,
First
excuse me.
Avenue.
Yeah, I think it was
Hmm.
the club he had there. And it freaked me out because oil coats the vocal cords, coats the
Yeah.
back of your throat. Not only that, but it coats any naked instruments that are on stage.
Oh,
It just
absolutely.
coats everything. It coats
Yeah.
everything. So I learned a lot at that time. And so going forward, I would go, okay, this doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. So, and I don't I don't send out a writer of going, you can't do this. I don't do anything like that. I'm not that kind of person, but I take care, me.
You
So
have to.
yeah,
I mean, I'm always telling my vocal students, like, the reality is that nobody's gonna look out for your voice but you. I mean, to be honest.
you
So
are you're 100% right. And I hate long sound checks. And if you work with Michael Schenker, sound check is about as long as the entire show.
and for a vocalist, see, that's different for an instrumentalist. Like, I get from his perspective, that's all fine and good, but
Of
for a
course,
vocalist, right?
and
This
it's
is
not all
like,
fun and dandy.
yeah, this is running the marathon before you run the marathon. You
Yeah,
you you can't
yeah.
do that.
I mean, it's the
Yeah.
last thing I need to be doing. And I mean, I like to get my ears set up and make sure that I'm comfortable and I got my levels and I got enough of everybody, and then I'm done. I don't need to be there all day. I know the songs. I've learned them. I don't need to rehearse
Yes.
during sound check, right?
And for the vocalist, a lot of knowing the songs is mental. You do a lot of mental work,
Oh,
and you can memorize it without, like, physically singing it every
yeah,
time. I guess it's a
yeah,
little different. Yeah.
yeah. So those are the things I do. Nothing magic when I don't have to speak. I don't. I
Okay.
speak very quietly. Usually, I do my warm ups. I do my warm downs. Um,
So what kind of you talking about warm ups? So obviously you're making sure that isn't too long. What kind of
yeah.
things are you doing in a warm up for
Oh,
tour?
it's you can cup your hands. You can sing into your hands. You can create this great little
Oh.
sound in your hands, which is great. Or I'll stand in a corner. I'll stand in a corner and I'll sing very, very quietly, like the usual, all of that sort of stuff.
Mm.
People are going, "What is that?" And I'll do my scales quietly. That's the secret to warm-ups. You're not supposed to be well. I
Yeah.
always learned
Very important.
you don't blast it out. You don't need to blast it out. And you try, of course, to keep everything away from here, and not make it scratchy. Warm waters is good. Gargle with warm water. It's just silly little stuff. Um,
Do you have anything on stage? Like, do you bring warm water on stage? Is that your beverage
I
or
have warm water and then I have room temperature and that's it.
yes?
That's all. Nothing more ever.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
No, nothing with citrus, nothing like that. No.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's not all magic. There is a lot of natural, just like an athlete, there's a degree of natural ability, and that degree can vary depending on the person. But when you really get down and talk to people, and when I'm interviewing people, even people who say they don't care, when you get to talking to them, they really do. And there's stuff they're doing like that seems small and simple, but it is all a part of I think the biggest thing you mentioned is just not having been a smoker. I mean, that's a huge thing. I see a lot of people with smokers edema and stuff, and even very young people. It like, who gets it and who doesn't is kind of an anomaly.
Yeah.
But you could be 25 and have not smoked for very long and get it. That happened to Miley Cyrus, So I
Yeah.
think it's a big, I think that's a big factor that you mentioned.
Yeah. And how you cough, there's there's certain ways, you don't bark, it's like just to clear it, you don't hack it out, it's because you're damaging. And whispering as a vocal coach, whispering can be more or as damaging as just full-on conversation, because you are using the muscles back there. And I remember very early on, uh one of my vocal coaches used to say, he goes, so imagine you're playing a piano, and imagine you're just hitting that one note all day, and that's all you're doing. And he goes, so look at the tip of your finger after several hours just hammering on that one note. Or think of the hammers on the piano, like they're like
Constantly
this.
over
And
and
he goes,
over.
so now pretend that those are vocal cords. And he gets, sooner or later that gap, there's no oxygen, there's no air rather, and now you have to push to get that air through there. And the more you push, the more inflammation you get, and of course you get hoarse. And it's so boring being a singer.
Oh, I know. I think this is about the 20th conversation I've had where we're always like, oh, yeah, being a singer, if you take it seriously on tour, is no fun. Like, it's the least
Yeah, yeah.
fun job. I noticed that you come up and play sometimes in the Rock Vault, which is
Yeah,
cool.
well, I was there for 7 years and almost 1,500 shows at
Oh, wow.
at
So
5 nights a week. So
you
yeah,
did the grind. Yeah, because when I first set up this interview, I was like, well, if he lives in town, let's do it in person so I can get the good audio, because almost no one lives in town. But he was like, oh, he
yeah,
lives in LA. I'm like, well, damn it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
When I worked Rockfall, obviously I used to stay there for the purpose of the show, but I still came back home two
to
days a
LA.
week. My 2 days off.
Wow. So let's talk about that. Being in a show like Raiding the Rock Vault, as opposed to, it is the grind of a tour in the sense that you're doing it every day. Is it more than one show every day?
For us, it was always one show, but we started at 2 hours 40 minutes. And you know how Vegas is. Then they went, nah, you can't play for 2 hours 40 minutes. So then we managed to get it down to, in the beginning, to 2 hours. Um, and then they insisted, no, 90 minutes is your standard Vegas show. So you just got to cut so much out of there. Um,
Wow.
yeah, the very beginnings of Rock Vault was huge. I mean, we had so much extra going on, vignettes on the stage left and right. The beginning of the show, several of us used to don hazmat uniforms because the Rock Vault was supposedly a time capsule.
Oh, I see.
So the
Yeah.
entire stage was covered in camouflage, and we were like these wacky scientists that just landed on a planet and stumbled across, there it is. Oh my God, there it is. And we would stumble across the time capsule. And once we would pull all the camouflage off everything, the entire stage would be revealed. The time capsule, the vault itself would be revealed, and we'd managed to get the door open. And of course, there was all of this smoke and green stuff. And right there in the middle was a flying V. And it was like so cool.
Oh, that is so
It
cool.
was so cool. Yeah.
And
And of course, we would have lots of old records pulling out of there, which segued into all of the different time periods in the show.
oh,
And
how
the
neat.
door would open, and we would step out to do our 60s. We would step out to do our 70s, our 80s, our 90s, and that's what we would all come through the vault, like we came through the time capsule back into current time and go, "Hey, do you remember this?" Yeah,
That is so rad. It's a really cool show, and it's got an amazing lineup, like rotating lineup of
yeah,
some of my
yeah.
favorite legendary musicians and vocalists. And it's really cool that you got to do that. And I was curious, in Vegas there are vocal challenges, right?
Ooh,
It's dry as hell here.
yes, it
And
is.
smoke, right? Which is the only place you can really smoke anymore.
Yeah.
Did you do anything special to manage your voice up here? I'm like addicted to the humidifier, but
Yeah, yeah. So I would sleep with the humidifier unless my wife was next to me, but I would sleep. I would sleep with my humidifier. I also use a facial humidifier.
oh, nice. Yeah.
So it's for steam, basically, mostly facial steamer. I absolutely swear by that. That travels everywhere with me.
Yeah, those are great.
And that's really big good because it really opens everything up. Um, I would walk up to about an hour and a half every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be out in the park every morning, smoke free. And of course, there was no smoking in the theater, which
Yeah,
was
of course.
which was
That is,
awesome.
yeah, you can't smoke in the theater. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
good.
we would come out always after the shows for meet and greets and signings. And of course, people would come down the line. Oh, that was a great show. And they're just like, you know, and some people want to do a photo with you and they're smoking. And I'm going, I can't do this.
Yeah.
It freaks me out. I know I'm making a big deal out of this, but if you knew me that well, freaks me out. Can't
That, but as a vocalist, as a career vocalist, this is your life's work. This is your instrument. You can't. Matt Barlow said in an interview, the guy who used to sing for Iced Earth, who said like, you can't go out and pour beer and cigarettes on your guitar. It's the same.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same deal.
I'll tell you, fast forward into sort of, pandemic period and just post pandemic when we started touring again. I did in the last couple of years extensive tours of Europe with McAuley Schenker. And so we decided, obviously, like most bands did, we'd stay in the bubble. No backstage, no meet and greets, none of that sort of stuff would go on. And as soon as we would leave the bus into the venue, we'd wear our masks. And so, so more times than off, you'd have 50, 60, 100 people at a venue at like 8 o'clock in the morning when the bus would roll in, already wanting to meet you. And we were dying to meet them. And they go, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here. Finally. And can I do a photo with you? And would you mind just lowering your mask while I take the photo?
Oh my God.
I'm going.
You're like, what's the point?
Oh dear, what is the so you go through all of these protocols and somebody's, can I just no.
It's like that will defeat everything you just did.
But that's what you and then you have to do it in a way that you don't offend a fan, you know? And how do you tell them behind the band behind the mask, I'm doing this for you as well as myself?
Well, it's hard. I think people don't understand. It's hard for one reason I love doing this podcast is we really get to hear the artist perspective, the vocalist perspective, like deeply, not just on the what's on the record, like the practice, the art of vocals, and your perspective on like what you have to deal with and why you're doing some of those things. And then I think that helps create a better relationship with artists and musicians. I'm sorry, not artists, musicians and fans, because they understand more of like why you would say something like that and are going to be less likely to get pissed. But if we're never talking about it, they don't know. And there are other things you hear like that too. For example, and you have to be like that. This is your instrument. You get one of them. Like that's it. And people don't understand too, if you get sick, respiratory illnesses for a vocalist, like the vocalist of Cinderella, for example, this poor guy who there's nothing wrong with his voice, but then he had a bad flu in like the early 2000s, and he got like a partially paralyzed vocal fold. And this is way more common than people realize. If you get a bad enough flu, you can get a paralyzed vocal fold.
Yeah, well, I also care. And I talk to people about it and have talked and continue to do so. And I'm one of those, I'm fiercely proud in terms of if I go to a concert, I want to see a good show. I want to hear the songs that I like performed like I remember them. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. That's how I am. I don't want a version. Don't give me some shitty version that you think I'm going to like. I'm not going to like it. I want to hear the song like it was recorded. That's what I want that. And I've always said to guys I work with just in trivial conversation, I said, I see a lot from stage, more than people think, and I said, what would really upset me is the whispering. Shoot, doesn't anybody tell that guy? It's done. He's done. Right?
Oh, right.
So I think I always am very concerned about that sort of element of dignity in what you do. And of course, as you get older now, what am I going to be out there just jumping around, people going, oh my God, that's so embarrassing watching this guy doing that. And so I care about stuff like that. So that's not just with the singing, but with the performance and what goes along with the with what you're projecting off stage. All of that comes together with me, and it's very, very important that what you see has to be solid, convincing, and it just has to be good. It has to be good. No excuses, none of this, oh, guy's voice is not like it used to be. Then it's time to go. There's too many, and I say this with all the love in my heart, there's too many singers who continue to walk out there and they're just not cutting it. And I suppose I would like to ask the question, do they think they're cutting it? I don't know. Or
because like, why do you want to be the guy that gets memed? You know, like, how many times do you want to endure that? You know,
right? Or do they just not care? Or is it
money?
I admire the fact that they continue to perform. Of course. That's not the point. The point is how are you performing?
And doing it dignity, you know, like you said,
and I always say that, and people go, "What's dignity got to do with it, dude?" And I'm going, "It has everything to do with it. Everything." You know, I'm looking at you. What I see is not very dignified.
And on top of that, you made the biggest point of all. These people paid to come see a show. And some of these legacy artists, it's an expensive. And one point that some of my performer friends, you know, some of the more local performers here in Vegas, have said to me is, okay, this might have been, Vegas shows are expensive, so maybe it costs them $150 for the lowest ticket. So then, you know, if the guy is up there and he can't remember the words and he's drunk and he can't stand, I mean, for some of these people, that's all the money they can afford to spend on that vacation this year. You know, you got to think of it like that. It might be every day for you, but it's not for them.
Yeah. But you know, I'm sure you're very aware, but there's been so many bad reviews about bands, you know, using backing tracks. There's so many reviews about bands using backing tracks, and the singer comes out and he still can't do it. You know, even with the end of the backing track. And there's so many reviews of singers coming out and actually using monitors so that they can remember the lyrics of their songs. And I'm going, really? Have we reached that? I mean, I know several people that do. I don't, just so you know, I don't. And if I have to at some point, I'm not going. I'm going to say, I'm done. See ya.
Well, I mean, that's where it goes. Like, even in I do metal, but I started off in classical because you know, that's just where you have to start. And it's like that's the only choice. But the thing about it is even there, they were saying about how if you keep your voice in shape, you know, because we were already seeing people like Leontine Price and some of these really legacy opera singers sing well into their 70s, very late in life, and sound indistinguishable from when they were younger. And so what we were always taught over there is like, well, you know, as long the voice doesn't really age as long as you're using it, number one, because like it does age and stiffen if you're not a singer. But if you're a singer and you just keep using it, it doesn't appear to age, you know, as long as you
Excellent point.
Live a good lifestyle.
Excellent point. And you know, not to digress, but so I've had the enormous pleasure in the last 6 months of and you didn't ask this question, but I'm just volunteering.
I love it. Lead.
So in the last 6 months, I was introduced to an Italian composer, Max Di Carlo, right? And so he writes sound bites mostly and movie soundtracks. He works a lot for Netflix, HBO, and so he had all of these compositions, and he wanted a singer, a sort of rock singer, and I can't remember exactly. Oh, I know, yeah, a manager person. He goes, "Hey, I've got this friend Max Di Carlo, and I think you'd be perfect to go meet him, and I think he'd love your voice. I think you're going to love his compositions, and he wants to see what you would make of the whole thing. Can you write a lyric? Can you write a melody to it?" And it started off because there was a big company that needed for their conferences, they needed a song to introduce them. And so I got the music from Max, and I'm going, oh, shit, you know, I have no idea what to do with this. It's all big, epic, symphonic stuff. And I'm going, oh,
Yeah.
now I'm lost. Okay. And then I sat with it, and then I suddenly went, bump. And out it came, and I did a quick demo, sent it back to you. And he goes, you are fucking great. All right. And Max and I are about 8 or 9 songs deep. He's already started sending stuff out to the movie industry.
Wow.
And
So this is stuff that's going to get like film placements.
oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm almost more stoked about this than I am for everything else I've ever done, because I love to push into it. I love different directions, and I love a challenge. And I wanted to do something like this for such a long time, but I never pursued it because I didn't know what to do or where to go. And suddenly this wonderful man lands on my doorstep, and we just hit it off. And the last song we did a couple of weeks ago, he goes, we have to write an opera. He goes, I cannot believe you are standing here in my studio singing like a fucking 20-year-old. And he goes, your tenor is so great. He goes, it's ridiculous. He goes, you send me a tape, and I'm thinking, nah, he's not really doing it. But here you are singing, and I'm looking at you, listening to you.
Right.
And
it's different when you're in the room and you're proving.
And we're having such a blast. We're having such a blast. So I think this year it may very well see the light of day in some form. We want to do a showcase, but we want to bring in the orchestra and do it the real way and present it that way, because there's no other way to present it. And it's huge. It's scary huge. But the type of music it is, it's not opera per se. It's like movie soundtrack stuff. So there's stuff that sounds like an old Western. There's a vampire song in there. There's stuff that you could put on the Vikings Netflix series. So it moves around. And of course, he picked the wrong person, because I just love going down that road into sort of old Hollywood and all of that old classic stuff. And it's just, and he gives me free rein, and he goes, what are you going to do with this? He goes, and then sometimes he'll stop and he goes, you didn't hear the violins there, did you? No, listen. You hear them now? And he goes, no. And it's in and out, and it's just, oh man, it's such a blast. Such a blast.
Are you guys gonna, I know it's mostly for licensing and placement, but you talked about performing some of it live. Would you release it sort of as like a special EP of something?
I think it'll be more than an EP. I think it'll be a whole album. Wow, cool. And I think obviously you get a soundtrack, then it may become part of that, or we're trying to figure that out. But there's so much of it, and it's almost not cohesive, but it is, because it's my voice, but I move around a lot all over the place, and I do a lot of stuff with my voice that I wouldn't normally do. And I even whistle on one of them, and I was just messing around in the studio because it sounded like a tribal pipe. And he goes, what is that? What are you doing that? And I went, oh, it's just me. I said, I just hear this melody over this part of it. He goes, I already recorded it. Now do it again. It's great. We're keeping it.
Oh my God.
Awesome. And it actually ended up like this old sort of Western type, out in the Dust Bowl, and basically the crux of the song is about the sort of the wrangler, the cowhand, who has to take us. It's an old movie. It's tried and tested. It has to take his cattle, 100 miles, and he goes and sells the cattle, and he makes the money, and he's dying to get back home to his loved one or loved ones, but because he has cash in hand, he keeps.
Yeah.
He never gets. So I'm still 1,000 miles and far from home. He never gets there. He never actually gets home because he needs to get home and start the next job. But there's too many bars and whoring and all sorts of stuff. Right. So he never actually gets home, and that's kind of what the song is about. And he's kind of lost in his lost in himself, basically. He wants to go home. He's desperate, but he just too many distractions.
That's so interesting that you're doing that. I would love to hear your vocals with some orchestral things. I
Yeah,
think that's really
it's
cool.
a blast. It's really, I mean, I'm so excited about it. It has to come out, you know. So anyway,
I
I
think
digress there
seeing
a
that
little bit.
live, no, I love that, but seeing that live would be awesome with an
Oh yeah, I think it
orchestra.
would. I think it would be really awesome.
I mean,
Really
everybody loves like metal and rock singers with orchestra stuff. They do. I mean,
awesome.
it's
It's
huge in
yeah.
Europe, the symphonic rock and
Oh
metal,
yeah,
right?
I'm totally. Are you into Nightwish? You must love all of those
Oh
singers.
yeah, for like 20 years now.
Jansen, oh my God, they're
Yeah.
awesome. They're just so awesome.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm like, your voice is so suited for something like that, but it's always nice to be able to branch out and explore as well and not be pigeonholed into one area and have new areas to explore vocally. You mentioned recording. Like, so he's Italian. Do you go to Italy to do the recording? Do you have a home studio at all that you
I
use?
don't know. I do. I can demo here at home easily.
Hmm.
Um, but I go to his house. He has a studio built in his house, and it's like he
Wow,
just
that's so cool.
it's just great. Yeah,
That's
and I live I live. I don't know. Are you familiar with like Simi Valley,
kind
Ronald?
of, yeah.
Yeah. So I live there, and Max is he's 20 minutes from me.
Oh, okay. So he's not
He
like
lives
over
in
in
he lives in
Italy.
Studio City. You know,
Oh, okay.
he
Easy.
lives in Studio City, and I'm going bump,
That's
and
great. That's so
uh,
close that you guys can do
it's
that.
great. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. We definitely have to keep everybody updated on that. I know you will,
No, I will. I will
Yeah.
because I'm too excited about it not to.
So with all this solo stuff, do you have any live plans based around either your solo album or Black Swan coming up?
Yes. So Frontiers have decided to uh, start up their festival series again. I think they already may have done some in Sweden already at the
Cool.
the latter end of last year. And so Milan is on the books. I've already been contacted to perform, and the band is mostly out of Italy. That's
Okay.
on the on both solos, um, and we'll use the same band, and hopefully because we'll be rehearsed, we can carry on and do other shows. And I love those guys. I kind of, in as much as I could, with Alessandro, I said, "Hey, when we start this record, I absolutely have to have same drummer, same guitarist." And he goes, "No, no, no, no. They're dying to do it." And Andrea Cerveso plays guitar on the first one, Standing on the Edge. On this one, he's he's awesome. His sense of melody, he just doesn't overplay. He gives you exactly, and he goes, "Do you like this?" And it's just great. I love it. And Nicholas is just a powerhouse drummer. He brings the thunder and plays exactly the right kind of stuff. And of course, Alessandro is like stupidly talented because he's a great singer. Doesn't sing anything on this one, but he's a great singer. Plays bass. Um, he plays keys, engineers, produces, and he just had a baby. I don't know where he found time. He just had a baby at the beginning of the year, and
Wow.
I have absolutely no idea how he found time to do that because he works on almost every single band that's on the Frontier label, and it's
Wow.
insane. But he does, and while doing all of that and working on so many different uh, other artists and bands, he manages, or together we managed to make my record not sound like the rest of them, and that's kind of what we like
That's
about it.
amazing.
And it's easy to do that because Frontiers wants me to stay classic rock. They don't want me to go too much to the left or too much to the right. So, but we put a little bit more guts and meat and potatoes into this one, and nobody said anything so far. They all said they like it, so that's good.
That's great. Well, it's going over very well. Like it's really great. It's really great music. I'm really enjoying what I've heard so
Thank you.
far. And what I wanted to ask you about your live stuff. I'm always curious what singers prefer to do for their listening environment. You mentioned earlier, very briefly, like in sound check, you're checking your in ears. So is that how you prefer to do things? The in ears? Do you only use in ears? Do you ever have floor monitors? Do you like,
I
what do you
used
like?
to. I
Hmm.
used to. long time ago. And um, you've never been on stage with McAuley Schenker, have you?
No.
Well, there is no 10 on his amps. There isn't. It just goes way past that. And Michael is an amazing guitar player, but he's very picky and very specific about his sound. And aesthetically, his stage setup um, is suited that he has hot spots. He has his sweet spot everywhere on the stage. He has a particular measurement from the front of his cabs to where
Wow.
that front first monitor is for this particular solo, where I'm going to be for this because I need to get this sound and I need to be here. So there's markings all over the stage for where he needs to be for whatever song.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a singer and you have two wedges up front, you're just going to fall over and break your neck because sure as hell he has an effects pedal right behind you.
You're
So
like
I like
walking over all this stuff.
You're right. And so I remember when I used to sing only with the wedges, I'd be
Mhm.
over singing all the time because you just can't hear yourself.
Yeah,
And
it's so
you
loud.
can't fight. You cannot fight the instruments on the stage. You can't. I don't care who you are. You can't.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the
I
acoustic
like
drum set is setting the bass volume for everyone, and then the guitar players, and then you're just
plus the drums are 9 times out of 10 on a very high riser, right? And if you were to look at the stage setup, all the cymbals, all the hi-hats, everything is probably at the same height of where your mic ends up. So if you're only working on wedges, everything that's coming from here is now going through your microphone, coming back through your wedges. And so you have to fight with that. It's not a chance. And so I used to blow my voice all the time. And you're out doing a tour and it's show number 1 and you're going, oh, Jesus, I have 6 shows this week and this is just the first one.
right. That's a bad situation.
That is not a good situation. So when in-ears were introduced to me, I went, oh my God, where have you been?
It's such a difference.
Oh my God. And I know people who will not use them. They just go, no, it seems weird to me. And I'm going, well, you just be weird. I'll use them. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it because you can get you can get the studio set up in your ears and you know where your place is. And it's just, and I went, let the pack do the work.
Oh yeah, I mean, whenever I even recommend, actually, a couple years ago, I started recording after like 20 years of of like losing my hearing and stuff with like I was always using cans to record vocals,
Right.
like these, but then I started doing this a lot,
A one-off, yeah.
and I've lost I don't have as good of hearing in my left ear anymore. And I think it's because I was always turning that up, and so one thing I started doing was recording with in-ears now, because you're not mixing, you don't really need it. You're not mixing up. You're recording your vocals. That's gonna be by someone else later, so you don't need these like studio level things. So you can use your in-ears from stage and just plug them in instead. And I find that what it does is similar as the stage. It helps you manage your volume a lot because it's going in your ear, so it's blocking out some, not much, but even some of your inside face volume, which really helps. And you can actually hear, like, I can actually record quieter as well, not just on stage. And I think it's saving my what I have left of my ear.
Yeah, and what I found is, and there's a few singers that I've worked with on stage, and they always say, you don't look like you're singing, yet there's all of this power coming out. And I said, I think for me, and just for me, with the continuous use for so long with in-ears, I've learned how to project and project with power. And so I don't have to go, create the facial expression like I'm bursting blood vessels everywhere, and it's projection and allowing a good mic and good ears to do the work, and that way you're able to control your pitch, you're able to control what's going on in your vocal cords, bring it up from the chest and just shoot it right out there, get it out of there. And it works. It works for me. And the only time it doesn't work if I'm tired. And then I might be going, okay, now I have to dig deep. And I know my way through the forest. If I'm
Mm.
having a night where I'm going, I know where to go, then I'm not going to hurt myself. And for general Joe public, and I hate to put them into that category, they I'll defy it for them to tell the difference because I know where to go.
Well, this
And
is
that's
a very,
important vocally
yeah.
to know. That's very important to know your way through the woods.
It's very important to note that though too, because a lot of people listening to this podcast are people that take lessons with me or who are learning to sing and learning from what
Yeah,
you guys are saying. And I think that's so important to remember is the audience is not musicians. The musicians are on stage.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, you got the one guy in the audience, but
yeah,
like the one, only 1 in 10,000 people have perfect pitch. So you got the one guy over there that's like,
yeah,
"Well, actually, you sang a B flat when it was
yeah,
supposed to be a G, But like, you know, there's one guy always. But
yeah.
other than that, nobody's like that. The rest of the audience isn't even musicians, So the overwhelming majority of the people you're performing for can't hear all of those details, and that's the whole point. Is we're sort of like magicians putting on a show, a
Hmm.
sleight of hand. We have techniques that we're using to make it seem like it's always the
Yes.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's important to know that if you get into a little trouble, what to do, how to get out of it without blowing your voice, because I'm always thinking I'm always thinking when I'm in a show, there's a show tomorrow and there's a show the next day, so I'm always pacing without undermining the level of performance for the show night after night. I'm always thinking about tomorrow night. And I'm
Yeah.
always thinking about a part of any one particular song. I'm going, okay, this one is a ball cruncher, right? And and then I'm thinking, okay. So I'm already mapping it out, given a new set of elements on a new stage. I'm already mapping it out and I'm going through it and I'm going, yeah.
It's so important though. It's not just magic. It's not just running up there and doing whatever you want.
No, it is.
The-
It isn't. It's just I'm always in the show. It's really important. I have a blast, but I'm always in the show. I'm always, you're never going to see me, doing somersaults. That's never going.
but you're mentally very present, and I
Very,
think.
very, very. Yeah, it's important.
Mhm.
It's important because at the end of the day, it's entertainment and it's a show. And for me, I love to be entertained. I think it's super, super important. I don't want to be sitting there going, "Well, this is not much good, is it?" I
I
want to
mean,
be entertained.
it circles back to the whole thing about like people are paying for a show. We are entertainers. It is our
Yes,
job to
yes,
entertain.
yeah,
We
and,
don't have to
and
do that job.
yeah, and given those scenarios, you have a responsibility, I think, to perform and to
Yes.
give them that show. I think it's mutual responsibility. When I look around, I see some singers who look like they don't give a shit. It's like going, dude,
Yes.
present yourself, man. This is your job. This is what you do.
Even here in Vegas, I'll see some of the people who are performing like every night and really doing the
Yeah.
grind, and some of them will start to look bored. And I'm like, no, because like,
Oh, that's
don't do
funny.
that. Don't
That
start
is
to look
funny.
bored. And
How
they're just
dare you
going
be
through the
bored in front of
motions,
me? Yes.
And I'm like, man, I come from metal where it's like we cannot look bored. The audience will absolutely throw a fit if we look bored, and even for covers and stuff, it's just not gonna, So I see some people who do that. They kind of start to give up, but like I keep saying, whether it's your own music you've played a bunch of times on tour or whatever, it doesn't matter. For the people watching you, that may be the only time they're ever gonna see you. So could be
I'm
your
glad to hear that.
your
That's
thousandth
good.
time.
Yeah, no, that is it's super important.
So as we conclude here, I just want to say, what else is coming from this album? You've got a couple videos out now.
Right.
Are we expecting any more to come from this record?
Well, we'll have a third single on the drop date with the
Okay.
with the actual release on the 17th. We'll have, I think we're going to go with the big power ballad now.
I love power ballads.
You
Bring on
know,
the ballads.
I remember when we were selecting, they said, okay, should we go a different route this time and not give them the power ballad because, everybody knows you for the power ballads. And I'm going, yeah, you know me, I like to do something different, give them something different. So we were picking songs, and then they went, power ballad's good though.
Is
and
it is?
I said, let's do the power ballad because there's another 9 tracks on there. We can always send them out there, whatever.
Is
Um,
this album getting a Japanese release as well?
yes, and on the Japanese release, we um we I'm sorry, we chose the, oh, that's my son. I'm going to tell you a little story.
Yes.
My son Casey, beautiful. Look at these. Look at
You
these. Oh,
perform with him, right?
yes,
Did I read that?
yes, and he sings on my record.
So is he a singer? Does he play other instruments?
He's a great guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great guitar player. He's a great singer, and he just loves being in the studio with me. And I love having him in the studio. And so he sings on all the Black Swan records.
Wow.
And Jeff Pilson has a blast with him. And Jeff will always say, Casey's singing on this, right?
That's so cool.
Yeah, I said he'd be really disappointed if he's not. He wanted to play some rhythm guitar on this record, but he just didn't have the time. He takes his EMT nationals on Wednesday. He wants to, yeah, he's very,
how cool.
Yeah, and he's been up every single night over the weekend. I'm going to digress here a little bit, but I'm so proud of him. He has a fiance, and she, for years, has always been able to train pigs.
Wow. Okay.
That's all right. I didn't know people could do that until I met Lexi. So they've been up every night this weekend, and last night was a major deal up until 5 a.m. this morning or something. So they have 6 piggies, and they live in Ojai, and there's like 6 mommies giving birth, and they have tons of piggies this morning.
That's so cute.
Oh my God. And you should see these things, and they're sending texts throughout the night, and they're freezing their asses off.
Oh, it's got to be cold right now.
Freezing, but they've got all of these great big pens and all these hot lamps, and they're out there with, anyway, because that was him. So he's probably telling me, Dad, there must be 4,000 pigs here now. Anyway.
That is so cool. And anyway, does he ever play live with you? Will he ever play live with you?
He used to come up at the Rock Vault. He played at the LVH. He played at the Tropicana, and I used to always get the AC/DC stuff. And he would always come out and play on Highway to Hell. And when Doug Aldridge was in the show, Doug would go, don't look at me, dude. You're playing. You get out there.
Oh, that's
Doug
cool.
would really push him way out the front, and he goes, get out there and slay this thing. And Howard Leese, of course, was there. He goes, Casey's playing, right? Whenever he was in town with us. And he just loves it. He just loves it.
I think that's really cool that you guys have been able to share that music together like that.
And he's a twin. My son Jamie is home. He just graduated bachelor's in psychology just before Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, they got it from me. No.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And that's what we're going to tell them, Yeah.
So cool. Yes, there is, getting back to the record, there is an acoustic version. There's always a bonus track for the Japanese release.
Yes, always.
So we did a really beautiful acoustic version of the ballad.
Oh, neat.
Which is Can't Go On, it's called. And it's really, really nice. And we do the same with the Black Swan stuff. And Red just gets in there. And of course, Mr. Melody, when he gets on his acoustic guitar, is just like, it's just awesome. And a good song is a good song is a good song. And if it sounds good on the acoustic guitar, it's a great song.
Oh, yeah. It's great. The progression just holds up by itself, right?
So I'm really excited about the record. there's a good selection of songs. We had a blast writing it.
Where
and
can people follow you if they want to keep
so
up
I
with
have
all this stuff?
official Facebook page.
Nice.
Robin McAuley official. Same on Instagram. Same on Twitter. I'm all over Spotify. You can check it all out on YouTube. And of course, if you go to Frontiers SRL, you'll see all of the links for ordering. So should you so desire. And I really appreciate it. It's I thought I'd be retired by now, but I'm not done.
And music is music, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you retire from being a musician? You know.
Yeah, and my wife always says, please don't say that because you'd be just a pain in the ass if you were home here doing nothing. You need your music. You need your music. Keep doing your music till you can't do it anymore. Yeah.
Amen to that. Thank you so much, Robin, for being
You're the
on the
best.
podcast. I love it. Thank you so much. That wraps up this episode of the Voice Hacks Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show.